was really hoping not to have to deal with that here. But we are underway, actually. Looks like Noah keeping his 6 and going to lead off by cracking that polluted Delta.
And it looks like Noah's deck fairly expensive, even by Legacy standards.
Yeah.
There's a lot of foils as he's shuffling through that deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Noah actually, he mentioned that yesterday. Actually, said that like he got a lot of comments when we had him on camera one round yesterday, and he has a lot of alters, a lot of foils. His father actually owns Nerd Rage Gaming.
Aha!
So that is how he's kind of dipping into the card stock, I think.
Gotcha.
These weekends. And turn 1 Deathrite Shaman going to be the play for Noah. Shane with no Sensei's Divining Top, just Island Go. And going to give Noah a window to develop further. He's going to lead off with a Brainstorm. Shane going to fight back. Spell pierces the Brainstorm. And we'll see if Noah has anything further.
It's tough for Noah. I mean, that looked like his whole turn. He has a him and a Tarmogoyf in hand. Looked like he was digging for a land drop that turn to then follow up with one of his 2s. And instead can only attack with Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, I caught Tarmogoyf Liliana him, I believe. And Shane cannot get rid of that Deathrite Shaman fast enough.
Yeah, squeezing Noah even further here. And now there's a lot of pressure on Noah to make a land drop this turn.
And makes a land drop. They'll quickly back down a land. So draws Wasteland, immediately plays it, gets rid of that Tundra. And Shane with a replacement land drop of his own. And there is the Boogeyman itself, Sensei's Divining Top, ready to get the party started for Shane.
Yeah, you may ask there, why bother wastelanding when you're stuck on lands? Well, Noah's hand, Tarmogoyf, Hymn to Torok, nothing that's castable with the wasteland.
Yes.
So
the wasteland was not actually going to let him do anything extra other than waste a land. But he does find Deathrite Shaman. That unlocks all the cards in his hand. And Shane actually, without another land drop either, just passes with Island Tarn, sitting on Counterspell, which I suspect he's going to use on whatever presents itself, and which in this case happens to be Hymn to Torok.
yeah, Shane's showing a lot of discipline there. Could have brainstormed on his own turn, looking for a 3rd land drop, and says, I'd rather just Counterspell right now. He's not under a lot of pressure from Noah, so he can take his time here.
Yeah.
And eventually find his 3rd and then 4th and so on land drops.
And I mean, I think you have to suspect that there are spells that are going to kind of be let out of the floodgates once that Deathrite Shaman becomes active. So certainly he knows there's going to be a juicy counterspell target that turn.
Yep.
But now that he's used it, he does untap, give the top a spin, finds some lands. Happy to play a Flooded Strand there. Left, I believe, another land and another copy of Top on top of his deck. I suspect we'll see him shuffle those away. Well, actually, he'll probably just top again and bring that land to the top.
So Noah here has found a Ponder. So the option has the option of either just running the Tarmogoyf out there or pondering in search of a land drop.
Goes for the Ponder. Shane fires back with a Brainstorm. And looks like Noah considering his options. Is there actually a Daze in there, or was he just fronting?
Noah's got, for a younger player, he's got some bluff to his game.
Yeah.
Seen a little bit of this.
He did have Force of Will, so he actually could have. Well, I said that. He has Force of Will. He has no blue card, so.
I mean, that spot right there, where it's a borderline case of whether you would Daze.
Yeah.
Because he could pay for it, but he loses his fetch land. That's a really good spot to get fidgety.
It really is.
That's a fairly advanced level bluff.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. And looks like that Ponder does eventually resolve. So Shane brainstorms, likes what he finds, but is not ready to fight over Ponder. So Noah gets the Ponder off, finds the land he needs, and going to follow up with a Tarmogoyf. The question is, did Shane find Terminus or something of its ilk? He's going to untap, take the draw step. Was not Terminus, was Force of Will.
So
and notably has that entreat in his hand still. Just cast a Brainstorm, so could have put it on top. It wouldn't have done much damage there. Actually, wouldn't have been able to cast it, but he can shuffle it away.
Well, he may want to be saving that for a better spot. I mean, he still has Brainstorm left over.
Okay, that's fair.
So he has the opportunity to set that up somewhere down the line where it's maybe a little bit better spot.
A little bigger. I love the idea that Noah represented days against and Entreat the Angels.
Oh
game,
yeah.
too.
No, that I think that little move right there
Mm-hmm.
has the potential of making the difference between Noah winning and losing this game.
That is very possible. Noah got on tap, going to consider his attacks, but decides before we get to any of this combat nonsense, going to fire off Hymn to Drock. And Shane, only going to lose one card, decides to cast Spell Pierce instead of letting it resolve. Okay, so Noah swings in. 3/4 Tarmogoyf, 1/2 Deathrite Shaman, 4 damage incoming. Nothing to do for Shane, so Shane just takes it. And instead Brainstorm, and this may be setting up the Entreat.
Well, I think he's still going to wait a little bit longer now that he's found some lands.
Mhm.
I mean, he could set the
could put it
Entreat as
too
the
deep.
second
Yeah.
card.
But it looks like nope, top card.
Okay.
So it's coming. I am very excited to find out if he does it for okay, because he can still top and put it too deep.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I really want to know if he entreats for the full amount or entreats with 1 mana left over.
It's really intriguing, right? I mean, Noah did such a good job of selling that days.
Yeah, and tucks the entreat 1 card deeper, simply draws land, plays it, passes.
And I'm just never putting a 16-year-old in that kind of bluff.
Yeah, I really am not either. And Noah again contemplating. He has attacks. He's obviously going to make those attacks, but has to decide if there's anything worth doing first.
I mean, he has the option of, say, leading out with Liliana that's likely to draw a counterspell. That's another card in the graveyard for Tarmogoyf. A new unique card type, so
Yep.
some considerations here.
I think there's a pretty good argument for doing that. There's not much value to be gained by sitting on Liliana for any longer. I guess there is the argument that it is actually going to be kind of a win condition all its own if you can stick it.
Sort of. I mean, I feel like Liliana is a little overrated against countertop. I mean, it's a good card.
Yeah, I
Don't get me
agree.
wrong, but it's something that they can break out of, and especially once they have Divining Top, it's not that hard for them to set up an Entreat that just overpowers, kills in 1 turn, wipes
Yeah.
away the Liliana, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as we saw in the last match, you can shred their hand. As long as top is in play, they have a 3-card hand sitting on top of their deck. So Noah is going to go for that Liliana, and the question is, what does Shane do about it? He can crack Flooded Strand and hardcast Force of Will. He can also pitch Brainstorm and cast Force of Will.
There's 2 issues with the hardcasting Force of Will. One is he loses the Entreat because he has to crack a Flooded
And
Strand.
that is a huge issue.
The second issue is if Shane respects the possibility of days here, which Noah did such a good job representing a few turns ago, it is really gutsy to hardcast a Force of Will.
I agree. Now, of course, with the Entreat on top, Shane can cast it at any time with that Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah.
So Tarmogoyf going to swing in. Only a 3/4 currently. If Shane wanted to pull the trigger, he could entreat here, but it looks like he's not going to. Going to take the damage. Liliana ticks up. Useless land goes to the graveyard for Shane. And Abrupt Ticket goes to the graveyard for Noah. That last card in Noah's hand, a Force of Will. And there it is. There's the entreat.
Now I want to see what Shane does.
Yeah, I know. I want to know. I want to know. Go ahead and tap your lands. Let's see what happens here. And yeah, he is going to with the Miracle Trigger on the stack. Oh, jams. All right. Maybe giving Noah a little too much credit. Maybe he didn't sell it quite as hard as we thought he did.
I mean, that is a gutsy Entreat right there.
3 angels, so much more than 2.
Yep.
So that's huge.
I mean, that's the difference between a 3-turn clock and I guess it's still 3 turns regardless. And on the other side of the bracket, Austin Williams up a game over Matthew Hightower. Bogue Delver 1 game away from being in the finals.
All right. So yeah, now Shane gets to make the decisions of what to do with these angels. And it looks like 1 goes to Liliana, and the other 2 go to Noah's head.
Shane still needs a little bit of help here. That's the thing about this. I mean, on board, the race is still up in the air.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf can crack in. It is bigger than a 3-4 currently because that Liliana just hit the graveyard.
Shane does have the option of, say, only send 2, leave 1 back on defense to chump block, untap and attack for lethal.
Yeah.
But then suddenly something like Abrupt Decay
Yeah.
becomes an issue.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is something he's definitely going to want to do. Because, of course, the Deathrite Shaman can gain 2 life, so that 1 lethal swing is not quite so lethal as it appears. Shane has to be, at least suspect Abrupt Decay. We know that last card in Noah's hand was not Daze. He would have used it. But we saw Noah actually pitch Abrupt Decay to a Liliana activation, which might lead Shane to suspect that the last card was a redundant Abrupt Decay.
Yeah. But finding a source of plowshares here off this Brainstorm makes everything very easy.
Yep. Makes things quite a bit cleaner. And I have to assume that that is targeting the Tarmogoyf. I think the question then is just confirming just how big the thing is. Actually, well, Noah can make mana with his Deathrite Shaman and actually cast Force of Will. But if he makes mana with Deathrite Shaman, he does not gain life with the Deathrite Shaman, and then he dies.
Yeah.
So that won't work.
Not a lot of choice here.
So retired to the farm, the Tarmogoyf, and 3 Angels, cracking in for 12. Noah goes up 2, down 12, sits at 3 life, it looks like. All right, and that actually, 3 shouldn't be right because Swords to Plowshares would have gained him a couple there.
Yep. But it is still, the important thing is lethal,
Yeah.
lethal with this attack.
Yeah, that number may not be completely accurate, but definitely it is not so inaccurate that these Angels can't do the job. And in they come. Noah confirms attacking me, right? There is no other option, and that'll be game 1. Shane Remelt up a game.
Very gutsy, full amount in treat there. But it looks like he may have needed all of those tokens. 2 may not have got it done there.
Yeah, I think he maybe could have pulled it out with 2, but it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, that was some really awesome gamesmanship to watch there that first game. Welcome back to the booth. Patrick Sullivan, Andrew Stroud, RC Games Legacy Open here in Dallas, Texas. We're in the top 4, and it is trivia time. Again, the rules. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to tweet your answer at SCG Live and hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, 1 will be selected at random for 6 free months of RC Games Premium content. Don't worry about responding first, just accurately, and please keep in mind that this giveaway is run at the sole discretion of StarCGames.com, and that Twitch is in no way affiliated with this giveaway. And the question I have for you is, the StarCG Games Open Series rolls on next week. Where is the location of that Open? Again, tweet your answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. And now, on to the sideboards.
All right. I have Noah's list in front of me, and there it is on the screen in front of you guys at home. So Noah is going to have access to 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Tombstalker, 2 Diabolic Edict, 2 Disfigure, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Golgari Charm, 1 Corrosive Grip, 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Vendilion Click, and 1 Thoughtseize. Much like the list we saw last round, there are a lot of kind of fuzzy, not really sideboard cardish cards in here.
But that's becoming more and more common in Legacy. These are just what sideboards look like
Yeah,
now.
it certainly is. We're kind of at the point where I am no longer surprised by that. I certainly don't think that it is incorrect to be building your sideboards that way, particularly in these Brainstorm Ponder decks. Notably, I think kind of the more acute sideboard solutions, the Grafdigger's Cage, those type of effects, those are not cards that Noah's going to want here. But the more the broad, just general good cards in his list, the Vendilion Click, the Thoughtseize, the Spell Pierce, certainly the Corrosive Grip. Those are the cards that I think he is going to be happy to bring in here.
I think Flusterstorm as well has the potential to do some work against, certainly entreat the Angels, and Shane's deck is pretty spell dense in general.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like Flusterstorm, which is a pretty ubiquitous sideboard card to supplement Dazes and Spell Pierces. I wonder if that's maybe a reason to kind of shy away from the Entreat the Angels plan and kind of go to more towards Stoneforge Mystic in these decks.
Maybe. I think it comes with its pros and cons. The biggest issue that I have with the Stoneforge Mystic Kill is just tournament logistics, the time it takes to win. I mean, I watched Brian Brondawin play his build. He's a big fan of Counterbalance with Stoneforge Mystic as the win condition, and it just takes forever.
Yeah.
And I mean, Shane's here with Entreat. He picked up 3 draws in the Swiss rounds. Joe Lissette commonly picks up a draw during his Swiss rounds. And these are people playing the deck relatively quickly with Entreat. So going to an even slower package seems really risky to me.
That's fair. The kind of the third alternative there is to try and win with Leyline and, sorry, not Leyline, Rest in Peace and Helm of Obedience.
Yeah, try to go with the Enlightened Tutor package.
Yeah.
I think Enlightened Tutor makes you a lot worse against decks like Bug Delver, for example, that can interact with your stuff. I think having the Enlightened Tutor package improves your combo matchups
Right.
and some of your linear beatdown matchups. The decks that fold to Rest in Peace or fold to Counterbalance, you're much better served having Enlightened Tutor.
Sure.
But I think against decks where you don't have a single trump card, you cost a lot of percentage points there by having Enlightened Tutor in your deck.
True. And those kind of decks, the kinds of decks that are vulnerable to a certain and tutorable, I think generally you're pretty well off against those decks to begin with.
Yeah, for sure. And on Shane's side of the sideboard here, Pithy Needle, a Sable's Web, and is a Staticaster, 2 Medley Mage, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Disenchant, a Pyroblast, 2 Red Elemental Blast, a Vendilion Click, and 2 copies of Supreme Verdict. I really like the 2 copies of Supreme Verdict a lot in this matchup. I really like Rest in Peace here. Deathbred Shaman and Tarmogoyf both get shut down. I think the extra Red Blasts are reasonable. We saw Joe Lissette bring in Red Blasts against Austin Williams in the top 8. I wonder if the tipping point was the fact that Austin had a copy of Creeping Tar Pit in his list.
I don't know if that's necessarily a tipping point because there are plenty of good targets for blasts in these decks to begin with, I think.
Well, it's Delver of Secrets, cantrips, and counterspells.
Sure. I mean, Delver of Secrets, that's a real threat. So removal spell for one of their few actually like can kill you by itself threats. Sure, that's good. But I think there are actually a lot of spots where countering a Brainstorm at a crucial spot actually can be a game-winning play.
Yep. But I do like the 2 Supreme Verdicts and the Vendilion Click, the 2 copies of Rest in Peace for sure.
Yeah.
And the other Red Blast, I think that's sort of the territory where it's do you have things in your deck that are worse? And the question that I have for you is, in this matchup, do you think you get away from Counterbalance altogether?
Well, for me personally, I would, because it's just the idea of running the Counterbalance top block. That's just not the way I want to play Magic. But once you are playing Counterbalance, certainly you're committed to that strategy. I don't think you can get away from it entirely. And it depends a lot on what you have access to, whether or not you can bring in impactful cards that replace it. And it looks like Shane can, actually. 2 Verdict, 2 Rest in Peace, up to 3 Blast if he wants them. And likely the Vendilion Click. I think Vendilion Click's never terrible. So, you can make the argument there. Yeah, certainly there are reasonable cards to bring in that spot, and you are more or less turning off Noah's Abrupt Decays by doing that. Well, I said that. Actually, what you're really doing is making sure that Noah's Abrupt Decays are not stretched thin, and he can Abrupt Decay your Rest in Peace if you play one.
Sure.
So that's a big problem. You kind of see that dance play out. It's Rest in Peace, one of those weird cards where, it is a very powerful card to play on turn 2 against one of the decks that it hoses, but also you kind of want to slow roll it until you get a little value out of the trigger.
Yeah.
Because if you just play it on turn 2, then no one knows it's there, and he has to get rid of it before he actually starts deploying his graveyard threats.
I'm really charmed by the presence of Vendilion Click in the sideboard of both of these decks. It's when do you bring in the Click? I don't know, 100% of the matchups,
Yeah.
I guess? I guess I don't bring in against Burn. That's it. Maybe.
Not great there. You know what? I bring in Vendilion Click when I feel like attacking for 3.
Yeah. When I feel like disrupting my opponent or fixing my draw or having or fighting a Planeswalkers or it's just, I get that you kind of want to, you want to be cutting different cards each time and what have you, but.
Yeah, one of the classic arguments that you hear a lot about a lot of deck lists is you see a card that feels like it should come in against everything, and maybe even it does, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of a lot of times people are like, well, why isn't the main deck? You bring it against everything, don't you? It's like, yes, but what it replaces is different in each matchup.
Mm-hmm. I really like your incredulous, ill-informed person voice. You don't know the way well.
I appreciate you giving me credit for doing an impression there. That was actually just my voice.
Oh no, you went an octave or 2 deeper, my friend. That
fair.
was
you got me. You got me. But you hear that argument a lot actually about in particular cards that are at their best in post-board games in particular because of just kind of the texture of post-board games.
Yeah.
In Standard, for example, you see like Archangel of Thune, kind of one of the prototypical cards you see in Control decks in Standard. Pre-board, everyone's going to have a rule for it. Post-board, they probably won't. Vendilion Click maybe is just kind of the legacy version of Archangel of Thune. That may not be true, actually.
Well, it's Archangels because you're anticipating people not having answers.
Right.
An answer to Vendilion Click is almost a statement that doesn't make sense.
That's true. Yeah, like Vendilion, if they use a removal spell to get rid of Vendilion Click, it's like free value. You did it. That's actually getting like a 2-for-1 out of your disruptive thingus rather than just the traditional like peek and ship along.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. It is amusing to see two very different decks with exactly one Vendilion Click in their sideboard. Although Shane does, this is a second copy. Shane does have a Vendilion Click in his main deck as well.
You can see Noah's father there behind Shane's shoulder there, owner of Nerd Rage Gaming.
And I believe that is Andrew Tenjum hovering over the head judge's shoulder there.
Yeah. Skulking around, hood up.
So
would be blending into the background if not for the bright orange lettering on the hoodie.
Yeah, good thing they did that. Shane gonna take a peek at his opening hand. Sees lands in top. I think that's all he needs. And Noah gonna kick things off. Delver of Secrets on turn 1. Shane gonna fire right back. Plains and that is that not a top in the back there?
Not sure, but he may have been playing around Days in any case in it.
Okay,
Looks like
sure.
he actually did.
All right. So Noah gonna miss. That Delver of Secrets still just a 1/1 human. The old fugitive wizard that it is. Gonna get in there, poke for 1. And possibly Dark Confidant. Possibly Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf, the follow-up on turn 2 for Noah.
So the element of Dark Confidant in this deck is pretty impressive for this matchup. Not only is it just powerful in control matchups in general, but it gives Noah a threat that does not require the graveyard, which is so important against a deck that's bringing in recipes.
Absolutely. Yeah, 2 Dark Confidants in the main for Noah. Those are, well, two Dark Confidants and 4 Delver of Secrets. So that's 6 threats that don't really care about a Rest in Peace, which is convenient for Noah because there is a Rest in Peace sitting in Shane's hand. Since it's Divine Top, as you predicted, did come down on turn 2, sneaking around Days. Delver of Secrets, still just a Delver of Secrets. Boy, that card's terrible, huh?
Yep. So 1/1 for 1.
And Tarmogoyf going to swing in the mighty 0-1, but Noah, before damage, going to crack that polluted delta to get a little bit of damage on the board.
And I wonder if this is going to be just a mid-combat or upkeep to Vendilion Click here from Noah.
I'm not sure what you would accomplish by doing that.
If it's counterspell worthy from Shane's side,
Oh, sure.
then you just put a bunch of stuff in the graveyard right away.
If you draw Force of Will. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we actually expect Shane to have Force of Will in his deck post-board?
Probably less than 50%, but not impossible.
Fair. And looks like Noah just gonna get in his hits for 2 and pass. Shane gives the top an old spin. Did he find a blue source? He did. Found a Flooded Strand. And draw step. The Vendilion Click gonna come out to play. And Shane. Yeah, does not have Force of Will, so cannot actually respond to that except by activating top, which I think maybe he is then considering doing. kind of half started to do and then is backed up about it. There we go. All right. So freshly drawn Flooded Strand, pair of Brainstorms, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Terminus, Rest in Peace. Powerful hand.
For sure. And now if this was a hand that had only the one Brainstorm in it, I think you can easily send that to the bottom. The fact that there's 2 now makes more for an argument for putting the Terminus to the bottom.
Yeah, I agree. Terminus is, Shane has all the tools he needs to set up Terminus. And with the threats you have on board, you don't really care about this Rest in Peace. Your Tarmogoyf's going to shrink, but you do have at least 1 3-power flyer, potentially a second one on your upkeep.
Dark Confidant's still left over in Noah's hand, too.
It's a pretty good clock. So yeah, I would definitely ship the Terminus to the bottom here. Now, giving Shane an extra peek at a card, you're never happy about that. I feel like a lot of players use Vendilion Click's ability more than they should.
Yeah.
I think it is right more often than most players think to just leave it be.
The thing is, there's almost no way that Noah doesn't end up fighting over Terminus here if he leaves it.
True.
Because of the Jays and the 2 Brainstorms.
Yeah. That Terminus will not have much trouble finding its way to the top of Shane's library.
Also, I don't really put too much stock in the you don't want to give him a free look argument when he has Divining Top plus a Shuffler. I mean, yes, the extra look matters, but he's going to be looking at so many extra cards.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Yeah, I was definitely not suggesting that he shouldn't put Terminus on the bottom, but I was kind of more of a saying a lot of people do it too often. This is a spot where you definitely should.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it looks like he's going to leave it be. Rest in peace, as predicted. Comes to play. Tarmogoyf will be permanently an 0-1 lump until we can get that rest in peace off the board. Although there is an Abrupt Decay in Noah's hand, so that can be done. So finds Wasteland on top. Notably, that does not flip your Delver. So Delver's still doing its best 1-1 for 1 impression. And Abrupt Decay going to take out that Rest in Peace. We see this interaction come up time and time again. When that happens, the Rest in Peace is exiled. The Abrupt Decay is not.
This is probably the most anemic that I've ever seen this trio of creatures be.
That is true. That Delver has been in play since turn 1. It has dealt 4 damage.
Tarmogoyf, I think, has been good for 2.
Yep. But then click good for 3 in its tenure of 1 turn. That's about average.
Yeah. The only one pulling its weight thus far.
Mm-hmm. And spins the top, finds a Supreme Verdict. That's a scary one. But Shane's going to have to lose 2 life from these fetch lands in order to cast it. And he may not have 2 life.
Well, I think that he's not going to hesitate to let this one rip here. Next turn. I mean,
Sure. Oh, that's what I'm saying. He may not get it next turn. Tarmogoyf currently a 2-3. If the Delver does flip, then we're looking at Noah attacking for 8.
I mean, this is a pretty incredible insurance policy here.
Mm-hmm.
He can go ahead and set the Terminus to the top if it looks like all hell is breaking loose. He has it as safety valve.
True.
If not, he can go to the next turn in Supreme Verdict if he wants to do that instead.
That's fair. Oh, yeah, and of course, with the top in play, he can pull the trigger on that Terminus at any point. So definitely is going to get a chance to cast at least that one. And going to do so with, looks like Pyroblast backup. So Noah would need more than just that daze to stop it. Noah finds a land. Still does not flip that Delver Secrets.
Though the upshot of this is that he's found Liliana the Veil this turn, and since he's likely to get hit with Terminus, this is not a bad way to pivot. Start Liliana, plussing it, get your Confidant in play. Hope that that's good enough.
Yeah, I agree. He's gonna swing in here. Shane predictably going to activate the Sensei's top. Reveal Terminus. I think that was pretty well telegraphed. Noah had to suspect that was happening. I might be eager to stick the Confidant in play this turn.
Well, there's also an argument here for Noah to use his days.
Sure, just
Get the Divining Top away for forever, or at least until Shane finds a new one.
Yep, and that was a play that we saw Austin Williams use last round to very good effect. Sensei's Divining Top, still public enemy number 1.
Yeah,
It's still the actual biggest problem.
worth Force of Willing, worth using multiple cards on, and makes so many of the other tools in this deck so much less impressive when that's not a factor.
Yep. And brief pause here. Looks like Noah is consulting with the head judge, likely trying to get a clarification on exactly how this miracle trigger is working.
It's trigger, and then trigger resolves, option to play.
Miracle, one of the least intuitive mechanics that I think Wizards has printed in the last 3 or 4 years at least.
Well, it's pretty intuitive in regular games. If you and I have a random stack of Magic cards and we're just playing, and one of us draws a Miracle card, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, that's fair.
In scenarios where there's a lot of jiggering of the draw step and Sensei's Divine Top and Vidillion Clicker
Sure.
involved,
All right, fair enough.
it is Miracle is pretty intuitive. It's complicated with about a dozen or so Magic cards. Unfortunately, they all happen to be very powerful in
Right.
Legacy, and so this comes up all the time.
Those happen to be the dozen cards that work best with it in the history of Magic. So. And yeah, it looks like Noah going to fire off. Did he fire off the days?
Well, it looks like he's wastelanding the
Oh,
fetch land here.
Oh, that's a wasteland. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. That altar got the best of me. I thought it was a bayou.
Yeah. Also, when I first showed it, I thought it was an Urza's power plant. I mean, I can't really tell. I can't really tell from here, but
Okay. Huh. All right. You hear a lot of discussion sometimes about the tournament legality of altars. It is ultimately up to the head judge's discretion. Some head judges are very lenient about them. Some head judges just do not want them at all.
yeah.
And you can kind of see why here, because that it has the word wasteland on it. It doesn't necessarily look like one. You fooled us. I'm not sure you fooled Shane. And it looks like Noah is going to cast Dark Confidant post-combat rather than that Liliana. Shane going to jam a Jace into days.
Big swing here for Noah.
Yeah, that was huge. So Jace is gone. Noah gets to untap with Dark Confidant, get a little value out of it, reveals Golgari Charm, and gets to go to work. And Shane down to 10. As anemic as those beats were, they were real, and they were providing legitimate pressure.
It was sustained over several turns of anemic beatdowns. So.
Yep. So Dark Confidant going to knock Shane down to 8, and Noah content to pass the turn.
Now with Golgari Charm in hand, protection from Supreme Verdict.
Which Shane does know about, but going to pull the trigger regardless. That is one regenerated Dark Confidant.
I'm surprised that he would have started off his turn with that as opposed to, say, brainstorming or pondering, trying to find some way to circumvent the Golgari Charm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Again, the way to circumvent would be Force of Will, and I kind of doubt that that's in his deck post-board. All right, so now we're going to fire off Hymn to Turok, which was the reveal.
Well, for example, you could find Source of Plowshares and just plow it instead, or whatever the case may be.
Noah fires off him. Shane brainstorms in response, hoping to tuck the especially relevant ones to the top, although I'm not sure those are any more exciting. I know I saw Counterspell. I'm not actually sure what the other one that he put there was. He is going to lose 2 of these 3, determined in gentleman's fashion.
On the other side of the bracket, Austin Williams 2-0. He is in the finals, waiting for the winner of this match. If it is against Shane, is a rematch of the Swiss rounds where they took an unintentional draw.
Was that Shane's 3rd draw or 2nd?
That was the 3rd draw.
3rd draw. All right. Well, there is no clock in the finals. We will see a natural conclusion to this match.
Well, there is my patience, which is a clock of sorts.
Fair enough. All right. All right. Wasteland, the reveal for Dark Confidant. Croson Grip V, draw step draw. Noah's hand full of action. I have not seen the clock of your patience actually expire in my tenure as a coverage coordinator.
First time for everything,
So what, 90 minutes into the finals match, if they're still playing, you march down there and drag them by the ear out of the tournament hall? Is that how this works?
We cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay, fair enough. And Noah considering his options, and he has many. Dark Confidant will do that if you let it stay in play for long enough.
It's so much easier playing against this Miracles deck when Divine Top is not in play.
True.
They're just kind of a blue-white control deck. They might have a counterspell in their hand.
Yeah.
It's a normal game of Magic.
Yeah, so sometimes they draw for the turn, and it's just some useless land that they didn't want. Yeah, easier to play against a deck when they do not have top. Easier to play against the deck when you do have Bob. And looks like Noah decides on Liliana. Shane draws the counterspell, which he had tucked away. I think Noah's fine with that. Just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Shane down to no action. Dark Confidant swings away. Shane down to 4. 2-turn clock from just the Bob, and plenty more where that came from Noah. At least another Tarmogoyf.
It's one of those spots where you're relieved that that's all it is. It's just a counterspell. Noah's fine trading 1 for 1.
Yeah. And Noah, post-combat, plays Wasteland, goes for the Volcanic Island. I think
Still important here because Intrigue could still steal this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the decision there for Noah was, would I rather try to, use it on a wasteland, use it on a fetch land. That's a kind of a non-intuitive play. You don't actually remove one of Shane's mana sources that way, but you remove a lot of his options. As the game progresses. Although, if Noah has his way with it, the game won't progress too much longer. But yeah, Shane does find a solution to that Dark Confidant. Sword Splash there's off the top. And a quick redeployment of threats from Noah. Tarmogoyf and Delver of Secrets coming down, and Shane's seen enough. We're on to game 3.
And there is the difference between unchecked Divining Top and checked Divining Top.
Yep. So yeah, Noah actually seemed quite well prepared to deal with the Divining Top there too. Deal with Divining Top and actually just a lot of kind of non-conventional cards. I did not necessarily expect Golgari Charm to come in, although seeing if there are multiple Supreme Verdicts, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Shane may have a Vendilion Click. It's not out of the realm of possibility that you kill something with it, but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it does seem like a pretty narrow answer, though you do have the opportunity to take care of counterbalance on the blind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's basically a lot of narrow answers that maybe add up to enough utility to be worth.
Well, there's a lot. If you watch that game, you go back and watch that. Shane had a lot of his play kind of, not that it came down to it exactly, but a lot of his play seemed to be about lining up Supreme Verdict. And there's spots where when he has Supreme Verdict in his hand and the ability to cast it, he can afford to not Source of Plowshare something and take some hits. And the game can easily get directed into plays where he can't handle Golgari Charm. He can't handle the entire team getting regenerated. So I was surprised to see it there. But even on a 1-creature board, when Shane knew about it, it still did good work.
True. Now, having said that, I found it very odd that he fired off Supreme Verdict there.
Yeah, well, I at least would have led with a cantrip. At least see if you can find Source of Plowshares or something that makes it so you don't have to just spend your turn running into a Golgari Charm.
Yeah. So having seen game 2 play out, is there anything on either side that you were there sideboard choices that you were pretty confident about that you are less confident about? Did you change anything?
Well, the big thing to me is now, we watched Joe, we watched him in the top 8, we're watching Shane right now. In the post-board games, I don't think I've seen a counterbalance yet.
True.
I think that's out of both players' decks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It would not surprise me to see Shane board those out. We also did not see Force of Will out of him in game 2, and actually there were a couple plays that kind of suggested to me that he just did not have them in his deck.
Yep.
So a lot of the kind of pivotal cards likely not here.
So Joe is willing to leave in misdirections because it can be Force of Will in some scenarios, but because of Hymn to Torok and because of Abrupt Decay, its ceiling is much higher. But I don't think you can afford to really have Force of Will in the dark.
Yeah, you're not excited about it, that's for sure. Yeah, misdirection, when it's good, it's real good.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, Abrupt Decays on counterbalance get redirected to Liliana. I've seen some shots heard around the world by that card, But
yeah.
Force of Will doesn't have that kind of ceiling.
Now, again, we saw Joe Lissette play misdirection in the quarterfinals post-board. We also saw him lose with it sitting in his hand, not doing anything.
Yeah, the game went on for 20 turns, and it just, with Austin using Liliana to strip his hand down, it just, and also once Abrupt Decay, if you've cut counterbalance, the most common target for Abrupt Decay is out of the deck. So misdirecting Abrupt Decay becomes a lot less likely. Now, you still get Hymn to Torok, which is awesome if that ever happens in any of the early stages of the game. But
this is not a concern for Shane because Shane does not have a misdirection.
Yeah.
But the greater point that you want to be very careful about bringing in cards that are dependent on other cards when you are facing down Thoughtseize, him, Liliana, the works.
It's tough. Both of these decks have a fair amount of, moving parts or cards that are predicated on other cards or board states lining up in particular ways. And both these decks also have a lot of ways to wear the other person out of resources. And you go back, you watch the second game between Joe and Austin. Like you mentioned, there's that misdirection that there's all these scenarios you can imagine where it's going to be really good, and it just didn't line up, because there's so much Liliana and counterspelling and discard going on that it's hard for both players to amass a sufficient quantity of stuff to get all the moving parts to line up.
So with that in mind, like it makes me wonder, again, we saw, I believe, a Pyroblast in game 2 just now. So is that a card you're happy with? Like, I think you have to be very careful about bringing in reactive cards that are not very broadly applicable.
Yeah, especially against a deck with him. That's a good way to just get caught with, him's going to be bad for you in various spots, but the more of your deck that can just be cast proactively or easily, the more you can get to, well, okay, I've only had one card in my hand, or it was just a land left over. The more narrow your answers are, the more likely that him's going to do some real damage.
True. And actually, over on Noah's side, another kind of a point for going into game 3. We know that he boarded in Golgari Charm. We saw it do fantastic work against Supreme Verdict. Suppose that Noah knows for a fact that there will not be any counterbalances in Shane's deck for game 3. Now, Noah doesn't know that. For that matter, we don't know that, but we kind of suspect it. If you know that, is Golgari Charm still worth it?
I think the answer is probably yes, because Abrupt Decay has to get out of your deck in the world you're describing.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And then Golgari Charm's still a broader answer than Abrupt Decay.
Okay. Now, Abrupt Decay still has some application, as we see Shane kicking off the decider with the Boogeyman again. Turn 1 Sensei's Divining Top.
This is a tough hand. I mean, he's kept Plains Mountain, and there's no island here.
We saw Joe Lissette holding on for dear life just last round with Plains and Mountain in play. He did eventually draw out of it. He did lose that game.
Yeah.
So you're right. This is rough. And actually, wow, two double blue counterspells there as well. So a lot of action that Shane is many turns from casting.
And he may not have a lot of time this game.
True. Yeah. In contrast from last game, where Delver of Secrets remained its puny initial form for many turns, this time the 3/2 beater flipping up immediately. Force of Will coming off the top for Noah. So bad news and then worse news. Noah goes for a Ponder. We do see the Golgari Charm still there. Insurance from that Supreme Verdict, which we do know is in Shane's hand. And Noah has to decide, does he, how important is that card? Does he want to make sure that he has access to it? And he decides pretty important. So 3/2 flyer coming across. Shane takes the first hit, falls 7, spins the top, and that's a good top.
Yeah, Shane has found the Tarn, so I mean, he's still not out of the woods yet, because his hand needs double blue.
Yes.
Not just single blue.
Yep. Found the Tarn he needed. Found a Sword Splasher as well. So first order of business, getting Noah's clock out of the way. I think that's going to be where he's going to go. Okay, so draws the Sword Plowshares. Before casting it, activates Sensei's Divining Top to put the Tarn into play, playing around Spell Pierce in the process. Now, he does expose the top, which we know he put on top of his deck by doing that, but Shane has backup. So
yep.
Would not be a big deal if Shane had to crack the fetch and shuffle away the one top, because he does have another one.
And likely to be just shuffled away regardless here.
Yes. So yeah, that was a very good turn for Shane. Pass the turn with fresh top in play, top on top of his library, which we suspect will not be there when he draws. And Noah going to lay his third land, go a fetching, and look to redeploy a clock.
And Shane now, with his blue mana, now has Snapcaster plus Swords to Plowshares. That Divine Top let him look pretty deep, and he needed all those looks to get to that Tarn.
That Sensei's Divining Top card. We've been hyping it up, but it has been living up to the hype, I think.
Well, in these decks, I mean, there's some decks where I watch it in action, like Imperial Painter or 12 Post, where it's good, not great.
Yeah.
This deck, it is great.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, the more the more ways you have to shuffle up and get a fresh top, the better. This deck plays a metric ton of fetch lands, and more pertinently, it actually is a means of abusing the miracle mechanic. So it just does triple, quadruple duty in this matchup.
Yeah, we've
or, well,
seen
in this deck.
We've seen this card just show up in random control decks with shuffling effects all over the years. The fact that it's good alongside the miracle cards is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, and during its tenure in standard, you would occasionally see just like black green mid range decks just with top.
Yeah. And now Shane has completely broken out of whatever mana trouble he had with that initial hand here.
There we see Mystigate once again. Last round we saw it representing 2 white sources out of nowhere. This round, we're seeing it represent blue source number 2 and number 3. And Shane with all the options all of a sudden. Now Noah's still with mostly a full grip. Tarmogoyf going to swing in for 3. Shane's just going to take it. Has the option there of Snapcast Source of Plowshares immediately. I think would rather sit on his answers at least until the end step, but all right. So Snapcaster Edge coming down, and not quite clear if it has resolved, or I believe Noah's considering fighting this.
This feels like it's worth a fight.
I think so. What is the other blue card there?
A Vendilion Click and Golgari Charm, Force of Will, Liliana of the Veil, Vendilion Click, Land, I believe is the hand.
Okay. Vendilion Click's, it's a sweet one. It's not one you want to give up. Particularly if you're going to have, well, I guess you're not going to have 2 threats in play if this Snapcaster resolves. So looks like Noah would rather have Vendilion Click. So Snapcaster, gonna give that Swords of Plowshares flashback. And notably, since the Swords of Plowshares was the last instant in graveyards, once it's flashback, Tarmogoyf back down to a 2/3, so not quite so much life gained there. But most importantly, Noah's clock off the board, well, at least very briefly.
Yeah.
Because that Vendilion Click, Noah does flash it in. And Shane and Remelt tap low, so not going to be able to use these 2 counter spells. Noah takes peek.
This feels like put Supreme Verdict on the bottom and keep the fingers crossed.
You don't even necessarily need to put Serene Verdict on the bottom. You do. There is a Golgari Charm in hand.
Well, Shane's going to be able to tap and cast Supreme Verdict.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, and this was all on...
We're still in Noah's.
Right, this is all on Noah's end step. So, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, given that, yes, you do... You've got to keep a clock.
And Counterspell, it's a powerful card here, but it's hard for Shane to leave up, given what his mana situation is like right now. I mean, he's on Mountain Plains, Island, Mystic Gate. He can't really hold up double Counterspell, and leaving up even a single Counterspell, he has to go through some hoops.
So if Noah sends that Supreme Verdict along, which I believe before he makes a final decision on that, it looks like he did need to kind of step away from the table, ask the judge a question, get some things straightened out. But if he does send that along, he is in a reasonable shape. Those 2 counter spells, those will not affect what he has already on board. And the Vendilion Click, currently a 5-turn clock. Although if Shane were to crack a fetch at any point in this game, that seems like something that will happen before this game ends.
Yeah.
And be down to 4. So it looks like he does, in fact, put Supreme Verdict on the bottom. I didn't catch what the replacement was. There was a Jace. So Jace the Mind Sculptor showing up for Shane, and Shane still before untapping, going to give the top an old spin.
Feels like Shane does have the pieces here to overpower.
I agree. Okay, finds Scalding Tarn, 5th land to be able to, well, a 5th land and notably 4th blue source. So Shane had the option of casting Jace the Mind Sculptor there, and is instead going to sit on a pair of counterspells.
Yeah, I mean, he can take the hit this turn. Next turn, draws his Vendilion Click if he wants to, can initiate a battle. Vendilion Click.
And Liliana of the Veil. I suspect this is worth a counterspell. Shane agrees. So there goes Liliana. Noah left with Force of Will, Golgari Charm. That might be it. Yeah, land.
And for as good as Golgari Charm was in game 2, it is done very little this game.
Yep. Not especially exciting. You know, when Shane casts this Vendilion Click, assuming he gets around to it, that is going to be 2 X1 threats. And of course, Noah has an X1 threat of his own, so it's kind of like a 2-mana Wrath God here. But that is not a card that the disruptive aggro control Bug Delver deck is really in the market for. And Shane is going to go for that Vendilion Click. I think Noah contemplating pulling the trigger on Golgari Charm here.
I think he can just block and allow for and regenerate, That likely gets counterspelled, but at least you get to cash in Golgari Charm for a counterspell.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, you just have to see what Shane does here. It's hard to speculate before. See, because Noah's picked up a him this turn, which is really bad for Shane.
Yeah, so we know the last 2 cards, Jace counterspell for Shane.
Yeah.
Those are both big ones. So Shane in a very tough spot here. Shane does know about the Golgari Charm.
Yeah. I mean, I think Shane's got the pieces to win this game. It's just answering this click and then probably fading a couple draw steps from Noah.
Although, I feel like he's already failed to fade a big one with this him.
Yeah.
And there we go. All right. So, I said all that. Noah might not actually get to keep his him.
I think that's very likely to go to the bottom here.
So the options for Noah there were hard cast Force of Will into the counterspell we know about. That's not exciting. Or just lay him down and see what happens.
Yeah, I think, the best thing you can hope for here is you get to trade Golgari Charm with either the Vendilion Click or with the counterspell. And Shane has to put the him on the bottom, and you draw something of note.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even the blue card here turns on Force of Will, which is not bad.
Yeah, and as you said, him, too important. And we take a peek at a fresh one, and it was a Liliana.
Yeah.
That one's good.
It's not bad either.
Shane wastes no time. Click in front of click. This is not an interaction that could have happened this time last year. Kind of weird to think about. The legend rule feels like it's been around forever, but. And sure enough, Noah Cohen going to fire off that Golgari Charm, regenerate his click.
But Noah has found a card of huge significance here. He has found Liliana the Veil off of that click, which means if Shane wants to use a counterspell here, that Jace goes away. If Noah pluses, and then we're back to playing Magic. I mean, Shane's got a huge edge with Divine Top in play, but this is another spot where Shane has sequenced everything, and Noah has drawn the right card to at least keep him off of the disaster scenario.
Yeah. So Vendilion Click. Those clicks threaten to trade off. Noah Cohen tries to save his click with Golgari Charm. Shane says no. Uses the next to last card in his hand, the counterspell. So there went the click, and Noah now cracking both fetches, likely eager to slam that Liliana into play.
And Shane, no shufflers. So the top it's good right now.
Yep.
It's going to help, but not a huge help until he finds ways to shuffle his deck.
Yeah, and I was actually about to ask that. It was not completely obvious which mode you use, actually.
Yeah.
It was, Shane down to 1 card, but not necessarily a guarantee that it is a power card. As it turns out, card very good.
Yeah,
so,
it is the power card, in
yes.
fact.
So Noah going to get punished for the decision, but again, I'm not actually, I don't want to say that it was a misplay exactly. I am not sure, which mode is more important here.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is if you plus the Snapcaster attacks down to 2, and then you either have to kill the Snapcaster Mage or Edict away, and that's not very good.
Yeah, and if you uptick and then the Snapcaster knocks down to 2, you lose your Liliana in the process.
Yes.
So Shane is going to cast Jace the Mind Sculptor, uses its Fate Seal ability. left Noah's card on top. Liked what he saw. It looked like it was a. I didn't catch a glimpse of it. Thoughtseize. Of course, Thoughtseize not so important when Shane has no hand. And it is dueling Planeswalkers here.
And Shane going right for the Fate Seal plan.
Mm-hmm.
I like this too. Doesn't know how long he can hang on to Jace here, so
Right.
pretty good chance he can end the game this way.
Yeah, I think with Liliana starting at 1 and Jace immediately coming down and going to 5, the Jace actually makes it to ultimate before Liliana does.
Mm-hmm. And he needs to really get there by 2 turns because he can just keep Jace in it. Jace versus X split.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Liliana ultimate on its own not going to solve this problem. Now it is going to make it pretty easy for other cards to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Because Shane, of course, can't keep a card in play while this is going on. And it looks like, yeah, Shane draws, attempts a Vendilion Click. Noah eager to use his Force of Will, but Shane fights back. Spins top, finds Red Elemental Blast, and wins the fight. So.
And now everything has collapsed for Noah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vendilion Click going to take a peek, finding 2 lands, I believe.
And I mean, Shane was also spinning an Entreat and all that too, so
Mm-hmm.
this gets to be a Fate Seal, a killing of Liliana, spinning Entreat to the top of the deck.
Yeah.
I think Shane Remelt's about to go to the finals.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, as you say, Vendilion Click immediately getting that Liliana out of the way, keeping it from causing any further trouble. A Fate Seal from Jace. That's got to be so demoralizing for Noah. That's 3 Fate Seals and 3 Keep 'ems.
I don't know which one's worse.
Yeah.
They're both pretty rough.
Yeah. Deathrat Shaman, the follow-up for Noah. Not so impressive here. Shane gives the top a spin, and I believe set up that Entreat. Nope.
Doesn't even have to.
Not
I
yet.
mean, he can just keep Spell Pierce right now.
True. All right, and we are Jace Ultimate's at 12, correct? So we're 1 off.
Yes. Okay. 2 more turns.
All right. Noah needs to double check that himself.
It's not good.
No.
The short version of this is it's ugly.
Yes. Jace has a lot of text. It's all bad for you.
Yeah.
But the part at the bottom, particularly, not going to work out in your favor.
I like that it's 12, so if you spent the whole game Fate Sealing, once you ultimate, you still get to keep the Jace in case the game goes on for another 25 turns.
Sound design. Card probably wouldn't be good enough if you had to give up the Jace, right?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it's just that they don't want to put the number 13 on a card because 13 is an unlucky number. Not kidding. I mean,
Okay.
if you got to flip a coin on these decisions, they're essentially coin flips.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Maybe that's the tiebreaker.
Okay. You think Jace would have seen less play if it was 13?
Probably a little bit.
All
People are pretty superstitious, man.
All right, that's fair. I don't know.
I don't know.
There were a reasonable number of 13s. Of course, in the Innistrad block was kind of a weird little mini theme they did.
That was on purpose, though. That was
Okay.
an intentional,
all right.
like,
So
oh, this is bad luck or
Okay.
whatever.
so people could be ironic about it.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Correct.
All right. Entreat the Angels is going to pop up. That's going to spit out 3 Angels. Noah's seen enough, extends the hand, and we are on to the finals.
Very good run here from Noah Cohen, his first Stargate Games top 8 appearance, but Shane Remelt moving on to the finals.